Hello, this is going to be a video to go over evaluating expressions given replacement values. So we're looking at kind of some problems that they have different variables in them, and what we're going to be doing is taking the variables that are in there and we're going to be replacing them into the expression and then simplifying it to a numerical value. So the first thing you want to do is just substitute. So just basic substitution. It helps when you use parentheses when you're plugging in the numbers. And then after you substitute, you're just going to follow the order of operations. So just a couple other things, just like helpful hints. 2x means 2 times x. So keep that in mind. And xy means x times y. And always use parentheses around any negative number. And let me see if I can kind of pull up y. Whoop. So you need to be careful when you are, just clear this up, plugging in negative numbers, especially to Desmos or any like higher functioning Texas Instrument calculator. If you substitute, like let's say we're saying -3 squared, if we don't use parentheses, it'll give us the incorrect value of -9. What Desmos is kind of thinking is it's just squaring the 3 and not the negative. So when we use the calculator to check our answer, mentally you need to think, okay, -3 times -3, boom, that's 9, done and done. But in order to notify the calculator of that, you have to use the parentheses around it. So let me see. All right. So we're going to do a couple of these problems together. These are just the ones that we went over in class. So you're going to take the values, like the W is going to go for the W there. The 2 is going to plug in here for the 2 value, and the 8 is going to substitute in here. Let me change my color so it's a little bit darker. So then once you plug in your values, when I replace them, instead of it being x to the third power, it'll be 2 to the third times 2w minus y, or 2 times 5, since that's w, minus y, which is 8. And you can use brackets around here if you don't want to use parentheses. It gets a little bit confusing. Then we're just going to follow the order of operations. So we're going to go ahead and, let me change this to a nice yellow. We're going to go ahead and multiply first. That'll give us 10 minus 8, and then a 2 to the third on the outside. Then we're going to subtract, so that'll be 2. And then 2 to the third is 8, so now we're done with kind of grouping symbols. We're moving on to exponents. 2 to the third is 8. Multiplying and dividing gives us the final. There's no adding and subtracting. So for this one, the answer is 16. All right. Do just like 2 more with you. So this problem involves some fractions, but just the 1/8, and I'll show you kind of an easier way of dealing with that versus converting the 1/8 into 0.125. So we're going to substitute the 2 in here, and then the 4 is going into the t. So everything else we're just kind of bringing down, 1/8, and then x to the third, so that'd be 2 to the third minus 4, and then times 4 to the third plus 8. We can go ahead and start working in our first grouping system. There's no more parentheses that have any operation happening within them. So we can move on to exponents. That's going to be 2 to the third, which is 8 minus 4. And then so then that would be 1/8. We're going to go ahead and subtract. So that would be 4. And then that grouping symbol's done, so we're moving on to the next. 4 to the third, which is 64, plus 8. And then down here, 64 plus 8 would be 72. When you get to this step, I know some people just get really, nervous about the fractions, but don't be nervous. You can definitely handle it. All you have to do when you're multiplying whole numbers times fractions is you can write over 1. I did work this out mentally, I think 1/8 of 4. So if I took 4 and I split it into 8 groups, I would have half in each group. And then I would then take half of 72, which is 36. You can do it that way, just kind of using some mental math strategies, or you can multiply across. So you could do 1 times 4, which is 4, and then 72 times 4, which is 8. Let's just do it quick. I don't want to pull the calculator out. So that would be 8 and then 28, so 288. Get rid of this. Okay. And then in the bottom, you would do divided by 8, because 8 times 1 times 1 gives you 8. Oops, I always get like a little. And then from there, you can just go ahead and check if it divides. So 288 divided by 8, which is 36. Depending on how comfortable you are cross-simplifying, you could do that too, where you actually simplify these, comparing the two of them. They're both divisible by 4, so that'd be 1 and 2. And then you could even double simplify here to 136. That would also give you a different way. But don't be scared. You don't need to always convert to a decimal. Okay, I'm actually going to skip those two and go down to this last one here. Again, don't be nervous about the fractions. I'm actually going to make this fraction negative. Okay. So we're going to evaluate 8/3 times n to the third power. We're still going to do the first part we normally do, which is we're going to substitute. It's actually kind of a short expression, but the fractions make it look pretty scary sometimes. So if we substitute that in, we're going to get 3 halves, negative 3 halves to the third. And then what we can do is, instead of, you still want to follow the order, right? So, we still have to deal with that exponent of 3 before we get to the multiplying. So if you want to deal with that, probably the simplest way is just to actually do repeated multiplication for the third power. We're going to bring down the 8/3, and then we're actually just going to write negative 3 halves multiplied by itself 3 times. And then we're going to multiply them all together. So if I multiply 8, all the numerators together, so 8 times, you can even include the negative with it, 8 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which is negative 216, divided by 3 times 2, which is 6, 6 times 2, which is 12, 12 times 2, which is 24. And then you can just do, let me hit enter, and then divide, there it is. You can hit the answer button, ANS. I'll bring up 216, and then you divide that by 24, and you get negative 9. So it seemed all scary, but it actually simplified to an integer answer. Let me zoom that off, sorry. So hopefully that's a little, the only other thing, just to kind of keep in mind, I'm zooming because it's not on here, is being mindful of when you have negative numbers to make sure that you are putting parentheses around them. So if this was, let's say A was 2, B was negative 3, we're going to do 2 times and then negative 3 squared. And again, let me just show you. Of course, I just took it off. Sorry. Sometimes it gets me. I move a little too fast. Okay. Let me drag this around here too. So when you're working on these kinds of problems, be careful that you please put parentheses, because if you just do 2 times negative 3 squared, it's going to tell you the answer is negative 18. You have to put the parentheses around it. So it's going to look like this, and if we can squeeze it, there we go, to give you the positive. And you can also use your math sense. Of course, negative 3 times negative 3 would give you 9 times 2, which is going to be 18. So please, 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 always remember to do parentheses around those negatives. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day.